It's new dinghy day for Epiphany. We've ordered a new, I think it's a 12'6" Bris dinghy off Amazon. We've been real happy with the old one, no complaints, but it was just too small for dive gear and me and Gordon and all that. So we're upgrading before we set off on our circumnavigation of the world. We'll start with a new dinghy, and here she is in the box, straight from China. Or came from China, but Amazon delivered it for me. I can't say enough about this brand. They're affordable. They're good boats. I haven't had to put air in our last one in like 6 months. So let's get her unboxed down here on the dock and see what we got. And there she is, all rolled up in the box. This is a repair kit here. It's got some glue and some patches and stuff in it. Got our pump, the oars, the dinghy, and the floor plates are in there at the bottom. So let's get her out of the box, roll her out, and start pumping her up. And of course, well, unlike typical mail, I will read the owner's manual. And basically, I just need to know putting the floor in. Everything else is just pumping up, but the way you put it in and snap it together makes a difference in how it fits. So we'll give this a good read, put the floor in. The aluminum floor panels come in a separate box, makes handling and shipping a little easier. So let's get these out and laid out and start putting her together. The directions say pump each section up about 30% before inserting the floor. So I'll basically give it a little bit of shape, flatten the floor out, put the panels in, you don't pinch nothing. Comes with a handy little foot pump. The moment of truth. Snapping the floor panels down without pinching the side of the boat. And we got a little pinch on this side, so there we go. And they're in. Now to put the side rails on the floor panels. Alright, the floor's in. You can see the side rails are on the floor so it don't flex at the joints when you're walking on it. It's a pain to get those in and lined up. You got to watch which way you put the panels in so all the joints line up properly. But get it right before you inflate it, because once it's inflated, it's not going to move. So let's get to pumping her up. And there she is, all inflated. Floor's in right and tight. Put the seats on. Does have a set of oars, which is handy if your motor stalls. Inflated the keel right there in that little center position, so you can see how she wobbles on her inflatable keel, which helps with steering. So, not that inflatable keels are the greatest, but inflatable dinghies have inflatable keels. So let's slide her in the water. We're going to row her out to the end of the dock and tie it up, and we'll grab her with the other dinghy and tow her on out. And she passed the first test. Well, the first test was, does she hold air? The second test, will it float? So we'll leave her here at the inner dock until we can tow her out, switch the motors on it. We've towed the new dinghy out to Epiphany, and we've spun the old dinghy around, and we're using our Dinghy 6-part block. We're going to hoist the motor up, and then we'll switch position of the dinghies and lower it back down. That way there's no chance of dropping this in the water. So let's play crane man. Now we've got the outboard hanging from the dinghy davit, and the other dinghy is just kind of like moving out of the way. We'll spin this around and set the motor on. Okay, we got the motor on the back of the new dinghy, but we're going to use some good grease on the threads before we clamp it down. We don't want them to corrode out on us. So we got the motor on and locked down. We've installed the eye bolts for lifting it with the dinghy davits, and we've installed our light bracket, which is telescopic. You can take the light out so it don't interfere with solar panels when we lift the dinghy. So this project is almost done. Now we're going to replace this bolt rope with something more substantial. We've got the lifting rope on the front down to the two eyes, and we've got our painter line set up. So bolt rope and 2 bolts through the lower bracket and the transom, and this project will be done. All right, so the motor's clamped to the transom. We're going to lift the dinghy for dinghy davits and stand on a swim platform and drill through the transom so we can put 2 bolts through the mounting bracket through the transom, and that'll keep the motor from ever falling off should the brackets get loose, or in an attempt at theft they got to take the bolts out, so we won't be the low-hanging fruit for motor theft. We got the dinghy out of the water, at least the rear end with the block and tackle on the dinghy davits. So let's drill this hole. We lifted it up so we wouldn't get the drill wet. We're sitting on the swim platform. So we'll do the other side, then we'll get in the dinghy, put the bolts in. This will keep the motor from being stolen or falling off accidentally. Another trick I do to all my dinghies is where the air valve is, where there's 4 of them on this boat. I use silicone paste and a brush to stick it down inside the air valves, so when I fill it up, it doesn't leak back on me. There is a check valve in there, so when it's greased up, it don't leak. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 tries. I've tried this one a couple times. Let's see it. Boom. And it holds, so now it don't leak. So you can pump it up to what you want, and you don't lose any air when you disconnect it. Now we haven't greased this one yet. Watch what it does. All the air leaks out. So we take the silicone and we get down in there and really grease the rubber seal up down there in the check valve. And we'll keep doing that until we get that to seal. Let's see if we got it. Yep. Now all our valves are sealed. We shouldn't have any leaks. Now this next step, and the last final step for my dinghy, is to replace this bolt rope. This cheap ratty stuff where they just stick it through. You go to pull on it to climb back in the dinghy, it all wants to pull out. We're going to replace it with good quality sheet line off one of the sails. This is used, so we got plenty of it. And when my life depends on being able to climb back in this dinghy from a diving expedition or snorkeling, I want something I can guarantee is not going to break and not going to run. So watch how we do this, and we'll show you how we knot it. Now when you're putting your new bolt rope in, I always secure a loop down here at the stern, so anyone swimming up to the back, it's got something to grab to other than the motor or the transom. And I make my securement points fairly snug to the rails and put an overhand knot between them, because what you don't want is someone to try and climb up in the dinghy and they lose all their arm reach way down there. You want to be able to keep your hands up here so you can use your upper body strength to pull your body in. So you got to make this fairly snug and have stopper knots at each joint so you don't get any slip and slide slack. The dinghy outfitting is done. The bolt rope's all the way around. Goes around the front. I put a loop at the front just for a hand grab. The one you see going from side to side is for lifting the dinghy out of the water. Hand loops in the back. Also installed our swim ladder, clips to the bolt rope. This goes overboard, help you climb back in the dinghy. But being a flexible ladder, it's real hard to get your center of gravity up over the tube. So we also have this here, and these are grab loops. Series of them. So you can pull your upper body and get your center of gravity up over the edge. It really makes it easy to get in the dinghy. So she's fully outfitted. Now we just got to scrape the bottom of the old dinghy and sell it.